Hello, welcome. My name is JesseMcDesign. Today, we're going to be customizing this lampshade. Let's get started. Today's going to be part one of a two-part thing we're going to be doing here. The first one is going to be making a lampshade into like a Victorian Gothic type of thing. Part two will be, you can kind of see it over my shoulder here, we'll be turning this faux skeleton into like a foliage lamp type deal, but that's gonna be a whole thing after we do this whole thing. So I got a bunch of trim and little tassels and some longer tassels. What I'm going to do now is start cutting up pieces of this fabric and all this trim and just kind of clipping it in place on the lampshade I have here, just to make sure I have enough of everything I need, which I think I do. I took measurements and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be good. But two, I also want to see what I want to do with this. It's like a cream colored I picked, and I think I'm gonna leave it for the most part because I wanted to kind of accent the color of the bone, which we'll do a little bit of weathering and stuff on that video. But I bought this fabric here, which is like a see-through web kind of deal, and on these big panels I want to try and figure out how many layers I want to add to see how dark I want this to be and how much of that white I want to show through. So it's going to be quite a while, so let's get started. Now that we got all our pieces cut out and kind of in place, you can kind of see what we got going on here. These extra long tassels are very, very white. I'm gonna try and do like a tea dye. I'm just gonna brew some dark black tea and just soak these in there for a little bit and then rinse them off, and it should give a nice, more creamy tone like we got going on here. But other than that, I'm super happy with everything. What I'm gonna do now is completely tear this apart, and then I'm gonna start with the these bigger panels, because that's the part that goes furthest in the back. And what I'm gonna do is lay them out. I'm gonna do a spray glue and kind of stick them on there, mainly to hold them in place. And then I am gonna go through and just stitch everything in place with a couple little hand stitches, just so it doesn't move at all. And I'm gonna continue that process for everything as we go, starting with these mesh panels, then we'll do these little strips, and then we'll do the trim, the side trim on top of all that, and then we'll do this top trim on top of all of that, which will make that top finished off real nice. And then we'll do these bigger tassels after we dye them, and then we'll do the final piece will be these shorter tassels on top of everything else. I think it's going to come out great, but it's going to be a lot of work. Let's get started. Alright, so we got our main panels on here pretty quickly actually. I just did a quick spray glue on the back and just kind of stuck them in place and did a quick trim. You saw it all happen. And then I did a fairly quick stitch, which actually went a lot faster than I was expecting. But now what we're going to do is clean up these seams with these little trim pieces. And one thing I do want to point out is they are directional. And with this, I'm going with them pointed down. Kind of hard to see, maybe you can see it there, I can't really tell, but there is a direction and I'm having them pointed down. So what I'm gonna do now is just take simple super glue and just put a strip down there, and I'm gonna glue these couple in place, And then what I'm gonna do, since I didn't really put too much effort into keeping these main panels in place, is because when I'm doing these trim pieces, I'm gonna go all the way around the wire frame of the lampshade itself. So I know that this is not gonna go anywhere, especially after being glued and stitched. And it's gonna go around all three pieces, the two panel pieces and the trim piece itself, all the way around that wire frame. And that's gonna lock everything in place perfectly. So this is going a little bit quicker than I was expecting, but that's a good thing. We got this top trim on there. It's looking great with all this. But before we do this final trim piece on the bottom, which is this fun little fringe bit, I want to try and dye these longer white tassels I'm going to put on the corners, just to accentuate it a little bit, give it a little bit more jazziness, even though we are putting this on afterwards as well. But as you can see, these are like pure ice white, and the lampshade is like a eggshell off-white color, and then with this on it, it looks even darker. So I brewed up some tea here. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it doesn't really matter. I'm hoping this will work. I've never tried this before. I've seen it done. So what I'm gonna do is just simply dunk these in here to dye them. I'm gonna do it pretty quick because I don't want it to get too dark and look too off from this. But I'm gonna again just dip it in here and then take it out, and then I have just a normal room temperature water, and I'm gonna dip it in there to kind of neutralize it so it doesn't get super dark or weird or anything. So we'll see how it goes. If it works out better than expected, normally on these they'll do like a fade type deal. I'll try it. I don't really expect this to work that well because it's a very light tea, but we'll see what happens. So that worked out pretty well. I ended up putting a little bit of a dye into it just to make it go faster. It wasn't doing as much as I was wanting, but you can kind of tell the difference here. You can see that it's really bright white, and these are a little more tannish, off-white, bony color, which I think will be perfect for what we got going on here. So what I got to do now is I'm going to simply put these on every corner, here, boom, 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 all the way across, and then we'll do our final fringe and we'll get the final shots. Alright, so there you have it. I'm super happy with how this thing came out. I wasn't really sure what I was expecting. It did go a little bit quicker than I had thought initially, but it did come out great. You know, you gotta love the fringe on the bottom, and then the white bits that we dyed up a little bit. I probably could have gone a tad bit darker on them. I might do a little bit on our next video with the next step, but we'll see how it turns out. But this is step 1 of 2. The second step will be next week's video, which is finishing off this, which you can kind of see is a skeleton kind of thing. On the base is like a planter base. I'm gonna shove with all kinds of fake flowers and plants and stuff and try to make that look real nice. And then this will obviously mount on top. But that's a whole thing I'm gonna try to figure out in the next video, so make sure you come back for that. But if you like what you saw, please hit the thumbs up, it really helps. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe. I'm always over here making stuff, creating things, furniture, art decor, traditional paintings, who knows? Leave it in the comments what I should do next. See you on the next one.